Wonder Woman would win, obviously, but I do think it really needs to be studied how the God of War fan base seriously believes that Kratos is in any way capable of killing any of the Greek gods. But wait a minute! You're typing in the comment section, Kratos killed all of the gods in God of War. Yeah, okay. This is why God of War fans are probably should be considered some of like the lowest IQ gaming fan bases there are, because the reality of the situation is that culturally speaking, the gods can't be killed. You can't kill the Greek gods. It's pretty well established in actual Greek mythology that the gods are completely unkillable, and the best you could possibly do is probably have them like I don't know, do some ironic punishment for all eternity, right? They can't be killed. So, like, this entire idea of, like, well, what if Kratos could, though? It's just dumb. It completely defies, like, the logic of, what the Greek gods actually are, what they represent, like the history and the culture. It is retarded. Okay. So, with that out of the way, like, Kratos never actually killed any of the Greek gods. The game ended immediately after the cutscene at the beginning of the game, where he just threw himself off that cliff and killed and committed suicide. Like Athena didn't save him. It was all just a giant cope. Okay, like. And the reason he did that was because he was scared of fighting Wonder Woman, a much more powerful character, one that would have defeated him, another child of Zeus who would have used her DC capabilities to just beat the shit out of. And before you even say anything, let's set aside the fact that the Greek gods can't be killed, okay? DC characters cannot die either. If you kill one, they'll just come right back. Okay. This is most notorious with Superman, the nature of comic books. The never-ending retcon means that if you kill Wonder Woman, she would just come right back. So Kratos is one thing, oh, I'm just gonna kill you. It just completely implodes in and of itself. She'll just come right back. Okay, so even in this hypothetical scenario where he does kill her, which isn't possible, she'll just come back anyway. So you have two layers of just protection against Kratos and his plot armor bullshit. Gods can't die, and DC superheroes can't die. The writers won't allow it. So, Wonder Woman just can't lose. Okay. With those two things into consideration, at the very best, it's going to be a draw, right? At the absolute best case scenario for Kratos is that it's a draw, but it's not going to be a draw. Now, is it? It's not gonna be a draw. Wonder Woman, through her compassion and love for the human race, is the complete antithesis of Kratos and his man-child temper tantrum against the gods. Oh man, Ares, he was mean to me once. Oh, Zeus, he blasted me off of Olympus. Oh, I'm just gonna keep mashing square until there's nothing left. Oh, I'm so angry. Oh, it is pathetic. Yeah, it's like that meme, right? Where you have the person who suffered and decides to destroy everything versus the kind of person who suffered more and decided to help other people because of it. It's that meme. Kratos is simply not capable of growing and developing as a person. This is the big contradiction of God of War, right? Oh, Kratos, he's so strong, he can kill all the Greek gods. So wait. So you're saying that Kratos, being a child of Zeus, means that he can kill all the other gods, and yet he himself can't be killed in turn. There's no it's just such a weird thing. Like, oh, I'm gonna use the power of the gods to kill the god and then become the god, and just like it's just like it's like some retarded like 10-year-old in ancient Greece is just like, oh, I'm actually the child of Zeus. I have all of his powers, and I'm the one destined to overthrow him and take the throne of Olympus, and I get to fuck Hera, and I get to take Artemis's virginity, and I get to ride in Apollo's chair. Like, it's just a complete and utter delusion from people who don't know anything about anything. It's like like being on the playground, right? As a kid, and like being told that, like, oh, my sword can like has the power of infinity, and if you have a shield that can counter that, like my sword will cut right through it, like it's infinity plus one, like the sword that beats everything, like it's like that logic, right? There's no rhyme or reason to it. There's no structure. There's no like internal logic or consistency. Like, Kratos just wins because, ooh, he's just that hardcore. Like, and the reality is, no, he's not that hardcore. Kratos is a loser. And I think this is like demonstrated most clearly by the fact that nothing that Kratos has done has resulted in anything positive for anyone. He's not happy. His wife and child aren't coming back. The daughter from the original trilogy. They're not going to be brought back to life. Like killing Zeus, like, even though that's impossible, didn't fix all of his problems. Kratos is a fundamental loser. Okay, and all of his fans are losers. Like, they like him so much because to him he's some kind of power fantasy of just like, oh, I bet I could like beat up the gods and have sex with broads like Kratos does. Like, it's just like a power fantasy for PlayStation fanboys who like won't even go outside, who have never even talked to a real girl, right? Like, again, why do you think so many of these PlayStation games, have you like leading around some child, like why do you think Ellie was so popular? Like, so many of these guys want a daughter so they can like sexually abuse her, right? Like, it's very common for this kind of person. Why? Like Chris Chan himself, he said that like he wanted a daughter. That's the mindset. Um, so yeah, with all that being said, going into like the nitty gritty of it, the reality of the situation, like, Kratos sucks. Like, he might be like the single worst character of the 2000s. I can't think of anyone else who's like that try hard, who's like left that little of an impact on culture, who's been like this complete just massive boat anchor around gaming since his inception, right? Like, in a lot of ways, I think everything bad about video games in the 2000s can be attributed to Kratos in some way, shape, or form. This idea that the game was like great because it was like mature, this idea that it was like some really well told like cinematic thing, this idea that Kratos was like a good, well designed character in general. It's just laughably stupid. And with all that being said, Wonder Woman has had a way longer legacy. She's a way more iconic character. People like her more. She had a successful movie. Wonder Woman is a way better representation over like, actually, DC in general is like a way better representation of like what like Greek myth should be, as opposed to like God of War's weird fetishized like alternative reality of it. Like, there is no lessons to be learned from Kratos. His struggles are not real. Like his character is not human. Like he's just a plot device to be a power fantasy for PlayStation fanboys. Like he is essentially a person that they can never be. And that is why Kratos is a complete and utter failure of a character.